I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Special Counsel Jack Smith's criminal investigation into Donald Trump continues to gain momentum. The most recent development, Jack Smith has sent a subpoena to the Secretary of State of Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, and to the Secretary of State of New Mexico, Maggie. These subpoenas follow subpoenas that were sent last week to the Secretary of State of Michigan and the Secretary of State of Arizona, as well as subpoenas sent to state election officials in Michigan, Arizona, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. The subpoenas are largely the same in form and substance, requesting that the state election officials produce all records and documents relating to any communication or interaction with Donald Trump, the Trump campaign, and those in Trump's inner circle relating to the 2020 election. And of course, when we're talking about Georgia, Brad Raffensperger was on the receiving end of Donald Trump's threatening and extortive phone call demanding Raffensperger fine Donald Trump 11,780 votes, or else something bad would happen to you, is what Donald Trump said to Brad Raffensperger. And then Donald Trump said, oh, this phone call was an even more perfect phone call than the one made to President Zelensky, where Trump threatened Zelensky in order to do Putin's bidding. So what conclusions can we draw from this flurry of subpoenas from the special counsel's office? Well, that they're not simply focused on the January 6th day of insurrection, that they are also focused on what led to the insurrection and the criminal conduct relating to election interference that also includes the intimidation and the threats on these state election officials like Brad Raffensperger. So in addition to January 6th insurrection, the obstruction of the official proceeding, the obstruction of Congress effectuating its constitutional obligations under the 12th Amendment, which is what mostly all of the insurrectionists have been charged with. Of course, the Oath Keepers were also charged with seditious conspiracy. Special Counsel Jack Smith here also seems to be heavily focused on election interference relating to these threats and intimidation of local election officials, as well as the fraudulent and phony elector scheme whereby these Republican legislators were trying to submit their names instead of the actual electors and to send those off to be certified instead of who the people actually elected and the actual electors that were supposed to be sent to be certified on January 6th. Now, something else that has been discussed a little bit less, but that I think is very important, that Jack Smith is also focused on, is the financial crimes relating to the January 6th insurrection. And so somebody at the DOJ by the name of J.P. Cooney, who's a former head of public corruption at the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office, who has been focused a lot on the financial crimes relating to the insurrection, financial crimes of people harboring insurrectionists, paying for the insurrectionists' hotels and travel. Jack Smith's also focused on, and I think J.P. Cooney is also going to be focused on as he joins Jack Smith's growing team of prosecutors on the financial crimes that may have been committed by the Save America organization or the Save America PAC that was used by Donald Trump to grift off of donors and then to use that money to further his efforts to interfere with a free and fair election. Now, it does appear to most legal observers, including myself, that an indictment is likely in 2023. U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara went on Meet the Press this weekend. And let me just tell you what Preet Bharara said about the team that Jack Smith has assembled. And Preet Bharara's ultimate conclusion is he believes, like I do, that Jack Smith is moving towards an indictment of Donald Trump in 2023. This is what Preet Bharara, the former United States attorney, said. He said, quote, "I don't think they would have left their former positions, both in government and private practice, unless there was a serious possibility that the Justice Department was on a path to charge. And I think it'll happen in a month," he added. Preet Bharara also said, when you're charging somebody in maybe the highest stakes trial, In some ways in history, because it's the former president of the United States, you have to get all your ducks in a row. Preet Bharara also said, quote, "You want to have a proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and you want to have a strong case. I think you want to have an exceptionally strong case here." And then finally, Preet Bharara said, "To show not just the jury in the case, but the public at large, that it was a righteous case, it was a meritorious case, and you have the goods." So even right now, Jack Smith's team of prosecutors is approximately 20 prosecutors strong. So Jack Smith is essentially already double the size of Mueller's team. I want you just to put that in perspective. And Jack Smith's team is already moving very swiftly, far more quicker than Mueller. And then also all of the things that Mueller was purportedly constrained by, his views of Department of Justice norms about not being able to prosecute a sitting president. None of that exists here when it comes to Jack Smith and Jack Smith's investigation. In addition to all of this subpoenas that Jack Smith has sent out as well, we should also reflect on the fact of all of the high-profile people that have gone before the grand jury in Washington, D.C. as part of the criminal investigations of Donald Trump. For example, we know that Stephen Miller testified. We know that Dan Scavino testified before the grand jury in Washington, D.C. In addition, we saw that there was a ruling by Judge Beryl Howell, who oversees the grand juries in Washington, D.C., that people like Pat Cipollone and Patrick Philbin would not be entitled to claim executive privilege regarding their communications with Donald Trump. They had previously testified in September, and they were called back in, and now they've testified now that there's no executive privilege on all of the remaining details that they were not permitted to testify then. That follows former Vice President Pence's former Chief of Staff and former General Counsel Mark Short and Greg Jacobs, respectively. They also had asserted executive privilege based on Trump's claim over the summer. The judge overseeing the grand jury, Beryl Howell, ruled that they're not entitled to executive privilege and compelled them to testify. By the way, I think they wanted to testify anyway. They felt legally constrained to assert the privilege until a judge told them that they were free to talk about it, and then they were happy to provide the detailed information. So Jack Smith already has a lot of information. You're hearing from Preet Bharara that he thinks that that an indictment is going to happen in a month. We know that Jack Smith's team is now 20 prosecutors strong, including Thomas Wyndham, Mary Dorman. Some of the top prosecutors and all of the DOJ are part of this team, and things are moving swiftly towards an indictment, it appears. We will keep you posted, of course, on the MeidasTouch network of any additional developments as they arise. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. We are on our way to 1 million subscribers, thanks to your support. And in addition to hitting the subscribe button, please check us out at Patreon. Go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Become a patron of the MeidasTouch network. It's a membership where you get exclusive content at patreon.com/MeidasTouch, but most importantly, help grow this independent media platform. We're not funded by any outside investors at all. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network.
MeidasTouch is unapologetically pro-democracy. And look, we know you are too. So please make sure you check out our best-selling shirt and our best-selling gear, the unapologetically pro-democracy gear. And hey, while you're at it, make sure you check out my favorite shirt and one of our most famous designs. It wasn't rigged, you're just a loser. At store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.